The human reproductive system's 304. 3 humans undergo sexual reproduction where the sperm from the father fuses with the egg cell from the mother, forming a zygote. This results in an offspring being born. The female reproductive organs 304. 4 oviduct, fallopian tube, ovary, vagina, cervix, uterus wall, uterus lining, endometrium. 1. Female reproductive system includes all the organs responsible for the production of an oocyte female gamete. 2. It also includes the organs involved in initially developing and maintaining an embryo during the early stages of pregnancy. The female reproductive organs 304. 5 egg cell, the female gamete ovaries. 2 ovaries produce egg cells once in 4 weeks where oocytes mature prior to release, ovulation. Women have undeveloped egg cells from birth, whereas men produce new sperm throughout their lives. It also responsible for estrogen and progesterone secretion. Oviducts, fallopian tubes connects the ovaries to the uterus, contain cilia to transport the egg cells through the tube. Fertilization occurs. The female reproductive organs 304. 6 uterus womb has thick muscular walls that are occupied by the developing baby during pregnancy. Fetus develops endometrium, the mucous membrane lining of the uterus. It thickens in preparation for implantation or is otherwise lost via menstruation. Cervix, a narrow opening leading from uterus to the vagina. Vagina, tube that leads from the cervix to outside of the body, receives semen A, blank, B, blank, C, blank, D, blank, E, blank, F, blank. The female reproductive organs 304. 7 oviduct, uterus, vagina, cervix, uterus lining, ovary A, blank, B, blank, C, blank, D, blank, E, blank, F, blank. The male reproductive organs 3048. Urethra, bladder. 1. Male reproductive system includes all the organs responsible for the production of sperm, male gamete. 2. It also includes the organs that are involved in synthesizing the semen in which the sperm is transported during copulation. Scrotum, penis, erectile tissue, testis, epididymis, sperm duct, prostate gland. The male reproductive organs 304. 9 sperm, the male reproductive gamete, testes plural. Testes, 2 testicles produce sperm cells, produce testosterone. Scrotum, a sac containing testes. Epididymis, site where sperm matures and develops the ability to be motile. Mature sperm is stored here until ejaculation. Sperm ducts carries semen from testes to the urethra. The male reproductive organs 304. 10 prostate gland produces semen, a nutritive liquid in which the sperm swim. Urethra, used to pass semen and urine at different occasions. Penis, organ containing urethra, urine and sperm are carried, allows semen to pass into the vagina. A, blank, B, blank, C, blank, D, blank, E, blank, F, blank. The male reproductive organs 304. 11 urethra, scrotum, testis, sperm duct, prostate gland, bladder. A, blank, B, blank, C, blank, D, blank, E, blank, F, blank, FACBDEI. Where are sperm made? 2. The part carries urine and sperm out of body. 3. Where the fluid that is added to the sperm is made. The male reproductive organs 304. 12 C, testis. E, urethra. B, prostate gland. Human gametes 305. 13. 1. Eggs begin to be formed inside a girl's ovaries before she is born. At birth, she already have thousands of partly developed eggs inside her ovaries. 2. When she reach puberty, some of these eggs begin to mature. Only one develop at a time. 3. An egg is a single cell. When it is fully developed, it bursts out of the ovary and into the funnel at the end of oviduct, ovulation. 4. In humans, it happens once a month throughout a woman's reproductive life. Human gametes 305. 14 jelly coat, cell surface membrane, cytoplasm containing yolk, an energy store, nucleus containing chromosomes, diameter 0.1 mm. A human egg. Human gametes 305. 151. Testis contains thousands of very narrow, coiled tubes or tubules. These are where sperm are made. 2. Sperm stored in the epididymis. 3. Sperm develop from cells in the walls of tubules. Sperm are made continually from puberty onwards. 4. Sperm production is very sensitive to heat. If they get too hot, the cells in the tubules will not develop into sperm. This is why the testes are positioned outside the body, where they are cooler than they would be inside. Human gametes 306. 16 sperm duct, body of epididymis, tail of epididymis, head of epididymis, seminiferous tubules, tubules where sperm are made, tunica albuginea, structure of the testes and epididymis. Human gametes 306. 17 the human sperm flagellum, tail, head, middle piece, containing mitochondria to release energy for swimming nucleus, containing mitochondria to release energy for swimming acrosome, a vesicle containing enzymes, to dissolve away through the jelly surrounding the egg cell. Sperm or motile can move, and have adaptations to help them to swim. Human gametes 305:18. The human gametes are the egg and the sperm cells. Human gametes 305:19. Comparison of male and female gametes. Sperm egg size very small 45 micrometers, large 0.15 millimeters. Structure head region flagellum. Many structural adaptations. Round cell with few structure adaptations, covered in a jelly coating. Motility capable of locomotion, not capable of locomotion. Numbers produced every day in huge numbers, around 100 million per day. Thousands of immature eggs in each ovary, but only one is released each month. Human gametes 305:20. Adaptive features of the gametes. Sperm eye has a flagellum tail to allows the sperm to swim towards the egg. 2. Contains enzymes in the head region acrosome to digest a root into the egg for fertilization. 3. Contains many mitochondria to provide energy for movement of the flagellum. Egg eye. Cytoplasm contains a store of energy to provide energy for cell division in the developing zygote after fertilization. 2. Jelly-like coating that changes after fertilization to make an impenetrable barrier after fertilization to prevent more sperm entering the egg. Self-test 306. The diagram shows a human sperm cell. The sperm cell has many mitochondria in the midsection. How do the mitochondria help the sperm carry out its function? A. Carry genetic information from male parent. B. Release energy for movement. C. Help sperm enter the egg. D. Make protein. 21. Cell membrane mitochondria nucleus. Fertilization 306:22:1. Fertilization is defined as the fusion of the nuclei from a male gamete sperm and a female gamete egg cell ovum. 2. When an egg cell is released via ovulation, it travels down the fallopian tube oviduct to the endometrial layer of the uterus. If the egg cell has not been fertilized by a sperm by the time it reaches the uterus, the egg cell and the endometrium is shed from the body via menstruation. If the egg cell is fertilized by a sperm, then the fertilized egg zygote will form a blastocyst that can implant within the endometrial layer and develop into an embryo. Fertilization 306:233. The process of fertilization involves a number of key steps. Once the sperms reach the egg cell, they begin to use enzymes in their vesicles to dissolve their way into the thick jelly layer. Only one sperm cell, in rare cases more than one, is able to do so. The head containing the nucleus enters the egg cell, its tail remains outside it. The egg cell and the sperm cell fuse together. This is known as fertilization. A zygote diploid cell is formed. One of these causes a change in the egg membranes, so that the attachment of and penetration by more than one spermatozoan cannot occur. Fertilization 306:244. The zygote is able to undergo asexual reproduction, i.e. mitosis, to form a multicellular organism. 5. Differentiation of these genetically identical cells will result in the formation of distinct tissues with specific functions. Fertilization 307:253. If there is an egg in the oviduct, it will be fertilized. 2. Sperm swim through the uterus and into the oviduct. 1. Sperm are left in the top of the vagina. The route taken by sperm to get to an egg. Fertilization 307:26. Nucleus of sperm jelly coat around egg. The head of one sperm penetrates the egg membrane pathway through jelly coat, produced by digestion of the jelly by enzymes from acrosome. The egg membrane and jelly coat change and become impenetrable, so no more sperm can get through. The nucleus of the successful sperm fuses with the egg nucleus. Nucleus of egg implantation 307:271. The zygote continues to move slowly towards the uterus. As it proceeds, it divides by mitosis. 2. Soon a ball of cells called the embryo forms. 3. When the embryo reaches the uterus, it sinks into the uterus wall. This is known as implantation. Implantation 307:281. Formation of the fetus and umbilical cord, I. After implantation, the embryo begins to develop. The embryo's cells begin to take up different functions, some become skin cells, some muscle cells, some blood cells. 2. 6 weeks post-fertilization is the time where the major organs begin to emerge. It begins to move when the muscles are developed when it is 8 weeks old. 3. 11 weeks post-fertilization, the organs are in their correct positions. The embryo develops into the fetus. IV. As this happens, an umbilical cord develops as well. The umbilical cord consists of 2 arteries and 1 vein. The arteries take blood from the fetus into the placenta. The vein returns the blood to the fetus. 3. The zygote divides. 4. After several hours, a ball of cells is formed. 6. Implantation. The embryo sinks into the soft lining of the uterus. Placenta formation. Implantation 307291. Ovulation. A mature follicle bursts, and releases an egg into oviduct. 2. Fertilization. A sperm nucleus fuses with the egg nucleus, forming a zygote. 5. Cells in the ball keep dividing as it moves down the oviduct. It is now called an embryo. Stages leading to implantation. Self-test 300-430. Which part release estrogen? F. Ovary. Self-test 300-431. Site of fertilization. Site of implantation. A fallopian tube. B. Uterus. Site of fertilization. Site of implantation. Placenta 308-321. As the embryo grows, a structure called the placenta also develops. 2. It is soft and dark and has finger-like projections called the villi. The villi help connect the placenta to the uterus wall. Amniotic sac. Placenta. Embryo. Amniotic fluid. Umbilical cord. A developing embryo inside the uterus. Placenta 308-33. Figure shows part of placenta. You can see how placenta allows the mother's and fetus's blood to come very close to one another, without mixing. Vein to mother. Umbilical cord. Vein. Artery. Thin wall of placenta. Fetus's blood separated from mother's blood by thin wall of placenta. Space filled with the mother's blood. Lining of uterus from mother. Placenta 309-34. Functions of the placenta. Placenta is the embryo's life support system. It is responsible in the exchange of substances between the embryo and the mother. It separates the mother's and the fetus's blood and brings them close enough so that nutrients can diffuse across two different concentration gradients. Oxygen and food materials diffuse across the placenta into the fetal blood. Carbon dioxide and waste materials diffuse the other way, into the mother's blood. It acts as a barrier to prevent the passage of some toxins and pathogens. Toxins such as nicotine, and pathogens such as rubella can pass through the placenta and can affect the growth of the fetus. The amniotic sac 309-351. The fetus is surrounded by a strong membrane, called amniotic sac. 2. The liquid inside called amniotic fluid. 3. Amniotic fluid support the embryo, and protect it from mechanical injury. 4. The embryo floats in the fluid and is able to freely move its arms and legs, which help the muscles and skeleton to develop correctly. A fetus in the uterus, just before birth. Testosterone and oestrogen 310-361. The functions of reproductive organs are strongly affected by hormones. 2. The main reproductive hormone produced in men is testosterone, while women estrogen and progesterone are secreted. 3. The time when a person approaches sexual maturity is called adolescence. 4. Sperm production begins in a boy, ovulation begins in a girl. 5. The point at which sexual maturity is reached is called puberty. This often a few years earlier in girls than in boys. 6. A person is still not completely adult at this point, as there are still changes and development happening in the brain. Testosterone and oestrogen 310-377. The changes that happen during adolescence are brought about by hormones. 8. In boys, testosterone is secreted by testes. During adolescence, the quantity of testosterone that's secreted greatly increases, and this causes the secondary sexual characteristics to develop. This include growth of facial hair and pubic hair, broadening shoulders and genera, muscular development, and deepening voice. 9. Estrogen is secreted by ovaries. It causes the breasts to grow larger, pubic hair to grow, and the hips to become wider. The menstrual cycle 310381. The menstrual cycle happens approximately every 28 days. 2. During each cycle, an egg cell is released from the ovaries. 3. The uterus wall thickens by filling with blood capillaries in preparation for a pregnancy, which would occur if the egg is fertilized. 4. If this egg is not fertilized, the egg dies and menstruation occurs, where the dead egg cell and old uterus lining is expelled from the body in a period. The menstrual cycle 3. 5. The recurring events of menstrual cycle are controlled by 4 hormones: estrogen, progesterone, FSH and LH. 6. Estrogen and progesterone are secreted by ovaries. FSH and LH are secreted by a small gland attached to the base of brain, pituitary gland. 7. During the first part of cycle, following menstruation, both FSH and LH are produced. 8. FSH causes a follicle to develop in the ovary, with a developing female gamete, egg, inside it. The menstrual cycle 310409. The developing follicle secretes estrogen in increasing amount. 10. Estrogen causes the lining of uterus to become thicker and better supplied with blood. 11. When follicles is fully developed, there is a surge in production of LH. This cause ovulation. 12. When ovulation has taken place, estrogen level starts to fall. 13. The follicle from which the eggs was releases develops into a structure called corpus luteum. The menstrual cycle 3104114. This secretes progesterone, so concentration of progesterone increases. 15. Progesterone keeps the lining of uterus thick and spongy, ready to receive a fertilized egg. 16. The increase in progesterone inhibits the pituitary gland, which causes FSH and LH production decrease. 17. If the egg is not fertilized, the corpus luteum breaks down, so the secretion of progesterone drops, and menstruation occurs. The menstrual cycle 3104218. Because progesterone is now not inhibiting their secretion, the levels of FSH and LH start to increase and whole cycle run through again. 19. However, if egg is fertilized, progesterone levels stay high. This happens because the corpus luteum remains in the ovary and continues to secrete progesterone. 20. Progesterone helps to maintain the thicc lining, so that embryo can implant into it. 21. Once the placenta has developed, this takes over the role of secreting progesterone, which it does throughout pregnancy, until baby is born. The menstrual cycle 3104322. The high levels of progesterone during pregnancy inhibit the secretion of FSH by pituitary gland, so no more follicles develop in the ovary. Changes in hormonal levels and uterus lining during menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle 31044 menstrual cycle, recurring fluctuations in hormone levels that produce physical changes in the uterus and ovaries to prepare the female body for pregnancy. In adult women, menstrual cycle lasts anywhere from 21 to 40 days, with average being 28 days. Cycle recurs until menopause, roughly about age 50, at which time ovarian function ceases, bringing an end to the woman's reproductive life. The menstrual cycle 31045 inside the ovary, a follicle sac containing an egg cell develops. The uterus lining is repaired. Menstruation. As egg has not been fertilized, the thick uterus lining is not needed. It breaks down, and is gradually lost through the vagina. The follicle turns into a corpus luteum. The lining of uterus becomes more vascular, ready to receive the embryo. Ovulation. The follicles bursts, releasing an egg cell from the ovary. Fertilization could take place. The menstrual cycle 31046 FSH follicle stimulating hormone triggers the development of an egg cell in the ovary, and also stimulates estrogen production in the ovaries. LH luteinizing hormone, this is produced in the pituitary gland, triggers an egg to be released, as well as stimulating progesterone production in the ovaries. Progesterone, responsible for maintaining the thick uterus lining in the cycle and during pregnancy. It also decreases FSH production. Estrogen stimulates LH production, whilst decreasing FSH production. The menstrual cycle is regulated by 4 hormones, the menstrual cycle 31047, which one of these maintains the lining during pregnancy. A. Estrogen. B. Progesterone. C. FSH. D. Testosterone. 15.2 Sexually transmitted infections. PG 31248 Sexually transmitted infection, STI, 312491. An infection that is transmitted through body fluids via sexual contact is called as a sexually transmitted infection, STI. 2. The spread of STIs can be controlled by abstaining from sexual contact, avoiding risky sexual practices, and always using protection such as condoms. 3. Till date, the most treacherous STI has been the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. Sexually transmitted infection, STI, 31350 HIV1. Human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, is an example of a pathogen that causes STI. 2. HIV belongs to a family of retroviruses that use an enzyme to convert their RNA into host DNA, allowing them to infect and replicate within cells. 3. HIV is present in the bodily fluids of infected people, such as blood and semen, and can be transmitted during sexual intercourse. Sexually transmitted infection, STI, 31351 HIV4. In the blood, HIV attaches to lymphocytes, white blood cells, T cells, and enters the cell. Here, it uses the cell to replicate itself, and thus the cell cannot carry out its normal functions. 5. Consequently, HIV reduces the number of functioning lymphocytes, as well as reducing the body's ability to produce antibodies to fight off infection. The person's immune system becomes more vulnerable to diseases in the environment. 6. HIV leads to AIDS, which makes the person extremely susceptible to other pathogens as the white blood cells can no longer fight off disease, which can be fatal. Sexually transmitted infection STI 31352 HIV 5. The person may develop cancer as well because 1. Function of the immune system is to destroy cancerous tumors. 6. There is no cure for AIDS. Research is being conducted worldwide to produce a vaccine that can kill the virus without infecting body cells. 7. But it can be prevented. Preventing HIV transmission 31353 HIV transmission methods. Preventing HIV through sexual contact. HIV live in the fluid in vagina, urethra, rectum. During sexual intercourse, fluid from one partner come into contact with fluid of other. Never have more than one sexual partner. Use condoms. Test for virus. Through blood contact. Blood containing HIV was used in transfusion. During childbirth, the blood of mother comes into contact with the baby. Sharing of hypodermic needles. Inject drugs. Screen blood for HIV when donating blood. HIV-infected mother takes antiretroviral drugs during pregnancy. Sterilize hypodermic needle. Police and paramedics wear protective clothes in dealing accidents. Through breastfeeding, infected mother has HIV virus in breast milk and so passed on to her baby. HIV-infected mother take antiretroviral drugs during pregnancy and while breastfeeding. Preventing HIV transmission 31354 Basics of HIV protection and prevention in sex. To reduce your risk of getting HIV, use condoms during sex. Drugs injection. Do not inject drugs. If do, use sterile injection equipment and water, and never share equipment with others. Taking PrEP. If you do not have HIV but are at risk of getting HIV, talk to your health care provider about pre-exposure prophylaxis. PrEP. PrEP involves taking a specific HIV medicine to reduce the risk of getting HIV. Protect others. If you have HIV, take HIV medicine, antiretroviral therapy, ART, as prescribed by your doctor. ART can reduce the amount of HIV in the blood called viral load, to the point where a test cannot detect it. Undetectable viral load. Having undetectable viral load will not transmit HIV to your partner through sex. Perinatal transmission. If you have HIV and take HIV medicine as prescribed by your doctor throughout pregnancy and childbirth, the chances of transmitting HIV to your baby are less than 1%. Preventing HIV transmission 31355 Antiretroviral drugs. 1. While there's no drug currently available that can rid the body of HIV, thereby curing the viral infection, many people diagnosed with HIV now can live much longer with a combination of HIV medicines known as antiretroviral therapy, ART. 2. HIV is treated with antiretroviral medicines, which work by stopping the virus replicating in the body. This allows the immune system to repair itself and prevent further damage. 3. Antiretroviral. A drug used to prevent a retrovirus, such as HIV, from replicating.